Welcome back everyone to another weekly update.
This week we had our first AGM with our new directors, where we have to do a community impact statement about what the CIC, which is Sensible SENCO, actually stands for, what we have achieved in the past year and how we have benefited our community. And then we were actually planning, what do we want next year's report to look like, because that then shapes what we are doing with the company.
And we took in a lot of the factors that you guys have been putting into your survey. We wanted to look at going back to basics, regenerating the Facebook group into a really active community and putting some fun things in place, not just
My job's horrendous, please help.
help me.
Which we don't mind the my job's horrendous, please help, but it does need a little bit of that balance of here's the great things about my job. Although I think everybody realised that it was the straw that broke the camel's back this week for us, with some of the, and I'm going to use the word, demands. And I think that does need addressing in this week's update. Okay. We both work full time, and we do Sensible SENCO and of course SENCO Solutions outside of that full-time work, which means it's all of our free time, all of our family time, all of everything else. And we did make a bit of a rod for our own back in that we are pretty responsive. We do try to get things out as quickly as we can. We have been sitting up after the Thursday webinars and doing the editing and then emailing it out to those that had registered and putting it on the website. And perhaps people don't realise that that 1 hour webinar actually probably takes 2 or 3 hours to edit and then upload and do the bits and pieces that go with it. And we've been doing that. I was really offended on Friday morning because we had 3 emails with, you haven't put the video up yet. Where's the video? I couldn't stay until the end. It was not my fault you couldn't stay until the end. Why is it not on the website? Why have you not emailed it? So we are not committing to the fact we will get it up the same day. We will get it up at some point. If you can't attend live, that's not actually our fault. It's not our problem. We still make it available for you, but you have got to work with us as much as anything else. And the bit that goes with that is we work full-time outside of this because we don't take any of the money that comes into Sensible SENCO to pay ourselves a salary. Now, if we wanted to do that, then we would have to charge a fairly high fee for the webinars and everything else.
You'd lose all the free tickets, you'd lose all that, you'd lose everything just to kind of get the value out of it for the hours that we have to put in. But we don't want to do that, and I really don't want to do that. And yes, we're going up to £10 a ticket, but we're still keeping those 50 free tickets. And the only reason we're going up to £10 a ticket is because I need to pay the speakers to be able to do that. And I cannot afford to pay the speakers out of my own wages for you guys then to watch. So,
and then also I think it's important to point out that those 50 free tickets, we kind of do expect those 50 people to turn up, because it's really unfair to take a ticket on the off chance, I might come. Well, it doesn't matter, it was a free ticket, and then other people miss out on that. So
yeah, that's the reason why we're going to £10, because we just need to pay the speakers. We've got some really good speakers coming. And we don't want to keep going to them, oh please give me another free session, forever free session. It's not fair on them. Of course, there's also that if you are a member of the website, that also goes into paying these speakers as well. So that's the reason why, if you're a member of the website, you've got free access to any of the webinars anyway.
Sorry, I went off on a bit of a whinge there, but I was quite, I think, upset as much as anything else.
I think it did need saying, because people look at us and think, oh, you're just a company trying to make money out of us.
Don't make any money out of it.
Any money out of you whatsoever.
Put more money into it than I take out.
Well,
so talking about that then, so we do have sponsorship of our website, which does help to pay our our website costs, because running a website is not free. It never has been. And of course there's all of the costs involved in the editing software and everything else that sits behind it, and producing the magazine. So we do go out to sponsors and we use businesses for that. We don't use your website payments for that. They pay for the speakers and the bits and pieces we put in place for you. So this week, what's happened this week?
This week we've actually taken on 5 new sponsors, but I'm going to talk about 3 of them and then we'll announce the other 2 next week. So we have got Victoria Bagnall from Connections in Mind has joined us as an executive functioning expert. Claire and Anne from Hamish and Milo join us for their SEMH and a wellbeing package. And let me just say, they have a fantastic giveaway at the moment. If you go to their website, you can actually click on it and go to their fantastic giveaway that they've got going on. They're going to be talking more about that. So I'm just going to plug that for them now. You're welcome, Claire. You're welcome.
They're struggling there because they've got to make a decision which school wins these resources.
I know.
And there's lots of stories in there that are pulling the heartstrings.
It is. It's all about the stories of well-being within schools and the pupils. And kind of the best story wins.
I think rather than sending out one big pack to a school, they'd be better off splitting some packs maybe. And
she was telling us some of the stories of it, and even my eyes started to tear up. So, really, really well done to those.
Onions?
Onions? I'm an ogre.
Yeah.
And we've got Gina from Brick by Brick. Now, Brick by Brick is Lego therapy, although they can't call it Lego therapy, but we can. She has done a webinar for us before, and she liked us so much, she decided to become a partner. So, welcome, Gina.
And then we've got two big sponsors who will announce next week, a bit nearer to Christmas.
Yep, we will. What I do have to say, though, is we have a new
I was going to say.
new thing for SENCOs. So, we have opened up a piece for our partners where they can ask for us to grab SENCOs.
What usually happens is a company will come along and say, I have got a product, I'm not really sure why it's not selling, or I'm not sure whether it's ready for market, or I'm not sure how to improve it. Please can you do some research for me? And I will go and do that research myself, but usually I will go and approach a group of SENCOs, or teachers sometimes if it's a classroom resource, and say, here you go, please use this, or please tell me about this, and let's feed it all together. Now, I did one online with a group of SENCOs from the group, so we had 2 focus groups, that's what we called them, where I asked for support. I was demonstrating an online product and asking for that feedback, and then I wrote a report and sent that back to the company. And what we're now doing is we're formalising that, we're making that part of our offer.
And even better than that, we are offering £25 for each SENCO that is invited into these sessions. Now, for Victoria's one, it's going to be on the 22nd of January, and I'm looking for a primary and secondary SENCO to join Abigail. And all of this goes to making a more impactful product and service for your pupils. So, it's a win-win, to be honest, for you SENCOs. So,
shall we have a Sensible 24 update?
So we are over halfway now through our ticket sales as such. So if you are going to buy a ticket, please do so very, very quickly.
I am starting to panic because I have got to get those registrations to the venue by the end of December. So you have only got 2 weeks left.
Yeah. So let's get on to what we really should be talking about with SENCO. So this week we're talking about going back to transitions again. So Abigail's going to talk about anxiety and what the effects of transitions do to cause anxiety, and how we can kind of put some coping mechanisms in.
Okay. It's like anxiety is a result of stress. Now, can I make the point that some stress is actually good? If we were totally unstressed throughout life, then we wouldn't know danger when it approaches us. So to a certain extent, anxiety is completely natural, it's completely normal, and we should all expect to experience it to some degree or other at some point during our lives. And excuse me, when something changes, we expect a peak in that anxiety. But for most of us, we know that anxious period is going to disappear. So I can remember going back to when I first started teaching, when I was asked to go and do assembly, and I'd have to go and stand up on the stage in front of the whole of the school and announce the house points for every team that week. That was horrible. That was my job in my first year of teaching. I was quite anxious about it. I couldn't get a sentence out. I would forget to breathe at the beginning of the sentence and then get to the end of it and be like this. I'd be shaking. My stomach would be turning over. I'd have the butterflies. When you go on stage, you got butterflies. It was quite nerve-wracking. But as soon as it was done, it was over. It was, oh, it's done, it's over. I'll wait till next Friday and do it again. I think that's us handling anxiety and stress in a fantastic way. And it's a change. It's something different each time. But for some children, that anxiety, that anxious period takes a lot longer to come out of the system.
And I'm going to agree with this completely, simply because I remember reading out loud, and just as Abigail said, in my English lessons as a student, and I remember all of the other children then realising that I can't read properly, and that made me even more anxious.
To give another example, and I still actually struggle with this, is that when I do a presentation, I get really, really anxious about it. Now, if I've got a script, I used to perform on stage, and I'm absolutely fine doing a performance because you've got a script. Everybody else around you has got a script. You know that when somebody says one line, your line comes after, and then somebody else comes back with the exact same response. It's fantastic doing a play because it's scripted. You know what's about to happen. Life isn't scripted though. Life is a set of unpredictables. You don't know what somebody is going to say. You don't know what your own response is going to be to it, and you don't know what everybody else's response is going to be to your response. So you kind of live your life on a little bit of a knife edge to a certain extent, where you're worried about, oh, what's the response going to be to this? And when I go and do live presentations, I do script everything. I script every presentation I do, and I read it and I read it and I read it until I'm really comfortable with it. And I will deviate from that now because I've got the confidence to do that, and I would read the audience, and if they're giggling at that one, I might throw in another joke along those lines because that works quite well. But it's still that fine balancing act of how people are going to take this.
Yeah, still get that. And even as a union rep, so when I was a union rep for the first time, I sat in there with meetings, and we've got the director of
something,
the company that I work for, which most of you probably do know, and I'm sitting in there thinking, do I speak up? Do I not speak up? But it was because, and I wouldn't speak up half the time, and it was simply because the anxiety I had as a kid when I was doing the reading and everything else manifested itself later on in life. And it carries on with you. So we need to deal with the anxiety and the transitional pieces from one thing to another as soon as we possibly can do. And it's a great time to do it while we were in school, because that's when your brain as a child is developing, and it's when you're taking in the most amount of information.
And if you think about anxiety, I say it's a stress response, and when we have a stress response, you release things like adrenaline, so fight, flight, freeze kind of response. I always use the example of ringing a fire bell. So the fire bell goes off, everybody kind of jumps out of their skin, adrenaline's released, you send the kids outside, and then you expect them to come back in within 10 minutes and settle back down to their lesson. You have got no chance. That adrenaline is still racing through their system, and as a hormone, it takes about an hour to come out of the system. Now, if you're a student who's suffering with those anxious responses, we've had a change, something didn't quite go right, so we're feeling a little bit on edge, we've got a bit of adrenaline in the system, and then 50 minutes later the bell rings and I'm about to go and change lesson again, and that it triggers it again. So by the end of the day, we've got this massive overload of adrenaline. We all know what happens when things like that are happening. So we might go home and we might kind of crash at some point. Makes total sense. It's really quite difficult to manage, and it's difficult to manage. We've got Christmas and New Year coming up, so that causes a different kind of anxiety. To me, it's a planned anxiety. I've got Christmas coming up. Oh, I've got to have Christmas dinner with everybody around the table. They might put my Brussels sprouts next to the gravy. They might do...
I'm going to put on weight because of that. So there's another anxiety thing.
I'm talking about adults here, but yeah.
Well, you can talk about the kids as well, because we know there are lots of kids out there that will think exactly the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Or our youngest kid is already going, I don't want turkey for dinner. Previously, it would have been, we're having Christmas dinner. Everybody eats the same. We've always had that rule in the house. child number 4, it's like, you know what? I really cannot be bothered with this argument anymore. You don't want turkey? That's fine. Have another Yorkshire pudding, because he likes Yorkshire puddings.
I like Yorkshire puddings.
So do I. I am a Yorkshire pudding. You don't want your Brussels sprouts? Fine. Have an extra baby carrot. Have whatever it is you want, because he does like carrots, doesn't like peas. Strange kid. But it's that anxiety that builds up. And I think sometimes we kind of take our own experiences and go, it's only Christmas dinner, for goodness sake, come on. Whereas actually that might be really quite stressful for somebody.
We have to remember that every individual has their own experiences, and we need to kind of be aware of that and what they've gone through, because we don't know what everybody's gone through. You drive down the road, you've got thousands of houses either side of them, each of them with 4 different people in them. You've got no idea what's going inside of those houses.
I don't think I want to know what's going on inside some of them.
What's going on inside those houses. But you can't actually imagine everything that goes on, and you can't cope with that kind of level of knowledge if you did.
You cannot be in somebody else's head.
No.
The other thing about Christmas, and it's that one for students with autism, Christmas presents, they're wrapped. You don't know what's in them.
Yep.
And they can't cope with that, not knowing what's there. And I know that in the past we've actually done it. We've given Christmas bags and not bothered actually wrapping the presents, because is that my big present or is it my little presents? Is it whatever? We've just gone for a bag and put all of them in. They take one out at a time. Also, each person takes it in turn. We do a bit of turn taking, but it's also that thing with little kids, isn't it? The little kids like to unwrap everybody's presents, and sometimes you've got to accommodate that. But there is an anxiety involved in that. What is that under the tray? The rest of us, it's curiosity. But for some children, it's an anxiety. Is it going to be the right colour? Is it going to be the right size? Is it going to be something I want? Is it whatever?
Is it going to upset my wife? So, I'm going to tell you a story now. One year, I made Abigail cry on Christmas. Moved into this nice new property, and we'd got this nice cooker, and we'd got these new Le Creuset pans and stuff like that. So I thought it was a really good idea to buy Abigail some Le Creuset oven dishes.
Baking trays. Pizza tray.
And a
casserole
dish thing.
Turkey thing.
Abigail didn't like this so much.
Hold on, so there was a Yorkshire pudding tin, there was a muffin tin, there was a baking tin, there was the one for putting the turkey in, and there was something else. So you imagine all of the black ones, but then with the Le Creuset silicone handles at the side. So there was these 5 items, and I just kind of looked at them and thought, great.
Merry Christmas, Abigail.
Thanks. Shall I go and cook Christmas dinner then, guys?
It's a good hint.
It was a good hint. I did go and cook Christmas dinner. I was upset because it was... I know they're expensive, so there was a value. Very expensive. There was a value in there, but it just didn't feel thought through and
Yeah, so this year I bought her nothing. That way there I can't make her cry.
That's okay, I went and bought some yesterday for you to wrap for me. This is the thing that we go to now. I just go buy my own presents from the kids, from the husband, and then give them to him to wrap for me.
And we're talking about anxiety for Christmas. I never want anything. My main thing that I want at any time is memories. Memories are the most important thing to me, not physical objects, not anything else. Making memories. That's it.
Can I say you're not the only one that made me cry on a special event, though? Everybody knows that I love penguins. My 21st birthday, every single present I opened was a penguin of some description. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. Another penguin, thank you. Another penguin, oh, a cuddly penguin, thank you. And yeah, it was...
Oh, God. That would be horrible. By the way, these up here, these aren't penguins, these are owls. Yeah, before anybody goes, you've got penguins behind you. No, they're not penguins.
The point was, my 21st birthday just became penguins. Everything was a penguin. It's like, oh, Abigail likes penguin, we'll go and buy her a penguin. Rather than, what is it Abigail needs, or what is it that Abigail would really appreciate? Not that it's to do with...
It is to do with anxiety, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now, every Christmas...
Oh, every Christmas, I kind of sit there thinking, oh, God, what am I going to get now?
What am I going to get? Am I going to get a penguin? Is it going to be a penguin? Is it going to be a baking tray? What's it going to be?
So yeah, anxiety builds, and it is a different kind of anxiety, but it is still there. How can we support students with it? So we talk about peer support.
Yep.
We talk about our TAs. We talk about involving our parents and carers. So everybody there actually has a very specific role within it. It isn't the SENCO's role.
No.
SENCO may advise and give direction, but students can be good at supporting each other.
I think at that time, students are probably better than the adults are at supporting each other, because they listen to each other more than they listen to the teachers.
Yeah, they can also be the cause of the anxiety, though.
They can be.
I got 50,000 presents at Christmas, and I got an Xbox and a PlayStation, and I got 19 games and a pair of Nike trainers. Why do I use Nike trainers?
I don't know why
It must
you
have been the
use Nike
1980s.
1980,
It was the trend at the time, along with the Reebok duffel bag.
The old Nike Airs with the heels like that on them.
Yeah, those ones. Well, I had them, and Wonder Bra, of course.
Never had one of those.
Oh, I think you did. It was the things at the time that kind of stick in your head. But kids can be they can wind the other ones up, especially if they only got 2 or 3 presents, or, as one of our kids got one year, a bag of coal, until the end of the day when we gave him his real presents. It was horrendous that year.
It was a bad year.
He found it quite funny, though.
He did.
He kept one of the pieces of coal, and he was talking about it yesterday and said, I'm going to keep that for another 20,000 years because it could be worth something then. I was like, yeah, you're not going to be around in 20,000 years? Not thought this one through.
But once again, the coal thing, memories. Made a memory, gave him the experience of actually not getting anything for that time period, and thinking, oh, actually... in his head now he can kind of relate to it.
He's got a story.
Yeah,
He's got a story to go with it. I think some of my memories as a child, I don't want to say I go overboard with the kids at Christmas, but I do buy them lots of presents, lots of smaller presents. And he's pulling a face. Only because this year I bought them computer games, not that they watch these videos, so I'm okay. I did buy them computer games this year, which are slightly more expensive, smaller presents. But I remember as a child, I only getting one present, and it was one present from my family. And I'm the youngest of 4 children, but I was brought up as an only child, so there were no siblings to chip into that. So it was literally one present under the Christmas tree, and it was always a reasonable present. It was, I remember my Cindy doll's house I had one year, but then my dad made the furniture for it because they couldn't afford to buy it. From my point of view, it's that worrying about what's under the tree for our own kids.
See, from my point of view, when I was a kid, it was worrying whether we actually had the money to be able to do anything at Christmas, because my mum was single since I was 9, and all my memories are my mum struggling more and more throughout the Christmas and every day, to be honest. So I've got anxieties over money issues, just because my parents had, or my mum had.
I think my parents hid the money issue. I knew there wasn't any money, but I think they hid it. We've gone back to talking about adults rather than children again, but those anxieties come from my childhood.
They do come from your childhood. And when I was 11 years old, my mum sold the house because she didn't want to live in the area anymore, and moved to a different place. The different place was 10 miles away from where we were. And then all your friends have gone, all your social interactions gone, and everything else. It was a lovely place to live, and she's still there now, some 30 odd years later.
Did you have to do maths?
I did have to do maths, that's why my brain slowed down then. So she's still there now. But that transition, moving house into a completely different area while still going to the same school, was a big impact on me. Huge.
So we can use our other students to support, which is where we were going with this. We can get them to recognise those conversations they need to have with their peers to help alleviate some of that anxiety that sits around Christmas and New Year and all the rest of it. We can use our TAs, we can give them a very focused role in that, with the conversations that they're having, the preparation for change, because after Christmas sometimes things change in secondary school, sometimes timetables change, sometimes we come back to a set of mock exams and the TAs are not available for 2 weeks, so those things that are going on. Sometimes even staff change over that Christmas period, because of course we hand our notice in, and teaching staff, we have fixed periods we can leave, so maybe that class teacher's changing after Christmas. Normally that only happens in September. Normal we can cope with. It's that unexpected, well, it's not unexpected, it's planned for change, but it's a one that we're not expecting at that time of the year. It's a bit like having snow in July. That would be an unexpected change. We know it's coming at some point, but not usually in July. So we can get our TAs on that very focused conversation with them. And then the other thing is involving our parents and carers. So get that communication going, certainly with younger children, getting them to tell you what's going on, what went on at home. Did they have a Christmas? Do they even celebrate Christmas? I mean, we're talking as if people celebrate Christmas. Some don't, of course. So what did they do over that seasonal break that we can then feed into our conversations in the classroom and supporting our students and reducing their anxiety around those things. I suppose the one that links to that is using technology. So how are we going to communicate with people? So, is it going to be emails with parents? Don't forget, you are supposed to be on your seasonal break, so I would hope you are not exchanging emails over the Christmas period. I know that I used to, but I used to set aside one day and I would tell my parents in advance, this is my seasonal break. Here is my one day that I'm going to respond to you. And I planned it in advance. School emails, staff, I would respond to, but parent emails, I was always very clear that this is the day that I'm working during that holiday period to deal with parental issues, and this is the day I will respond to you. But it's planning that and communicating that in advance, rather than that expectation of, well, I want you to do this now, why have you not done it? What do you mean you're on holiday? So that out of office response can be great, but also if you are prepared to work over that period, and I know most of you will work over that period, making it clear when you are working over that period. Don't make the mistake we've made with, we'll respond to you straight away. So get your parents and carers involved. Don't check your dojos though, don't check your emails unless you need to for those things. And then using that technology to support it. So it isn't just using emails, it isn't just using your class dojos or your class charts or whatever else it is you've got, or Jigsaw or whatever. It's using things like an alarm on a phone. Can really help a student with, I need to get back into my routine of getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and teaching us, certainly older students, getting them to sort that out. That can actually help with that transitional back into school again. And it goes back to what we were saying last week. I'm hoping it didn't end up cut out of the video,
no,
but
it didn't.
Where we're talking about a routine every day works really well for us. But some people do have that time over Christmas, but they've got to get back into it again, us as adults and children as children. So doing it a couple of days before they come back can be helpful. I think this year actually though, because most schools, unless you're an independent school, but most schools are not breaking up until the 22nd.
I know, it's really late.
Which is really late, so you've only got Saturday to go and do Christmas shopping.
Done it all on Amazon.
Maybe. I think in many ways that is probably really helpful to a lot of children. As stressful as we find it, it's probably quite helpful to a lot of children, because there isn't that waiting around for 4 or 5 days of, can I open my Christmas presents yet? Is it Christmas Day yet? Are we ready? I can remember one year where Christmas kind of fell quite late into that blog. They'd got to wait so long for it, and then they didn't actually have any time to play with what they'd got for Christmas before we're back into a school routine again and doing everything. This one, they've got 2 weeks to appreciate whatever it is that's been bought for them, if anything.
If they appreciate it.
It will. Or if it takes 30 seconds flat, open the boxes, rip the boxes, lose the pieces, throw it to one side, and then sit there and go on board.
So next week we'll be talking about reflecting, looking ahead and assessing your SEN transitions, as well as saying Merry Christmas. And
we won't just be talking Christmas, but we'll be talking about all types of transition. If we remember.
Of course we will. Until next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. He's corrected the pricing now.
The pricing is correct, yes. Of course it is. Platinum sponsors? Not even platinum. I don't even know where I'm going. I need more coffee. I really need more coffee.
I need paracetamol. I've got a pounding headache.
Sunday morning, 8 a.m, and we're like, yeah, this isn't working for us at the moment.